Hello everyone, and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we will be looking back at the last video when I came up with a scenario of if we ever made it to the Nether in real life, and now I'm deciding to go to the end. Uh, so without any further ado, let's get into it. It's gonna be a while before we get to the end, so let's see what we have done with the Nether since the last episode. First of all, infections are easier, have become easier to treat. This is because of the potions that can be made from brewing stands, which can now be made due to the access of blaze rods. It was then discovered that these potions are effective because of a strange supernatural property the blaze rods have. Because of this, scientists have made studies into the blazes and blaze spawners, as the piglins have no idea where they came from, as they and the Nether fortresses as a whole were an unsolved mystery, relics from an ancient piglin society, like the pyramids are to us. Because of this, a huge discovery was made about a big difference between our universe and the Nether, and that is how dark matter behaves. You see, in our universe, dark matter is the thing that pulls galaxies away from each other and a bunch of other stuff, probably. However, in the Nether, dark matter acts quite differently. First off, it explains how this ecosystem is underground with no way to the surface, as the dark matter in this world makes it so when planets form, there is a certain hollowness to them, with occasional support structures to prevent said planet from collapsing in on itself. But the part scientists were more interested in, however, was that it gives certain objects or things a certain ability, which is what allowed the brewing stand to be so effective. It also explains the Nether's power supply. In the early days of the Nether, before complex life came about, single-celled or life forms roamed around hydrothermal vents, but then some of those cells died, as it is one of the inevitable things in life other than taxes. And because of the weird properties of dark matter in the Nether, the souls of them went into the Netherrack and became soul sand. As the years went by, animals had evolved, and the piles of sand had grown, and souls were a great source of energy, and things like mushrooms that grow in the Nether could live off of these souls. However, one species had evolved to counteract this system, and making it so when it dies, the soul would leave the ground and back into the body, and that species is none other than the piglin. The project to drill through the bedrock ceiling has been doing just fine. They actually broke through, but to their surprise, there was still stuff above the bedrock. They continue to dig, and according to scientists, they should just be over halfway to the Nether's surface. Enough stalling, though. After finding out the Nether was real, people wanted to know if the end was real. The problem was no one knew how to make an end portal. There was no idea how to get the materials we see make it up. Despite this, after years of trying, we succeed in making an end portal. An army of both men and piglins are assembled, ready to take on the Ender Dragon and enter. But like the Nether, what they see on the other side was completely unexpected. Sorry. To their surprise, upon entering the end, there was still a portal to Earth behind them. They didn't have to defeat the Ender Dragon, but looking up, that seemed like an impossible task anyway. There was not one Ender Dragon, but many. It was its own species, and just overhead of them was a flock passing by. A baby Ender Dragon looks down on these new arrivals, but thinks nothing of it and focuses back on staying with its flock. Things got crazier as they looked down, as in between the end islands was an ocean, seemingly hovering over the void like the islands themselves. There were also plants that weren't coarse fruit. One type of grass, if it could be called that, they were standing on that very moment. They even saw clouds. The end, like the Nether, had a lot more biodiversity than in the game. It was awe-inducing. But then these beautiful sights distracted them, as a pack of wild shulkers had spotted them. Though some shulkers have been domesticated, these were wild shulkers. They did not have the shells the shulkers in game had. These shulkers were round, had the wings of a bat, and a gaping razing sharp mouth of teeth. What am I saying? These shulkers started attacking the army and even killed 3 or 4 of them. The army tried to fight back, but the shulkers were too agile and very small targets for their guns. Then, as if from nowhere, a scream from beyond the crowd of man and pig had arisen. This was no ordinary scream. It was the scream of an Enderman, or in this case, an Enderwoman. It was a girl. This Enderman started crushing the shulkers with her bare hands left and right. Though an Enderman couldn't possibly take on an entire pack of shulkers alone, luckily this was a relatively small pack, barely exceeding 100 members. The Enderman scares off the shulkers, but one fell behind and gets crushed. Blood leaks from the holes created by the Enderman's sharp claws and gets eaten and swallowed. The Enderman looked back at the army, who could tell she had taken a stroll away from its home. It seemed shorter than Endermen were in the game, meaning it was a child, maybe even a young teenager. The army was so in shock they forgot not to look Endermen in the eye. Luckily, Endermen in real life wouldn't attack you just for making eye contact, just be a little agitated by it. Even then, they were wearing protective glass over their faces. Sorry about that. The Enderman could barely see through the glass. Also, for the record, Endermen at this point have invented clothes, but they were like the clothing you'd see tribal people wearing in movies, barely covering up the private parts. With the blink of an eye, the Enderman teleports away, and before the army starts walking again, she teleports back, with something that could be resembled as a fruit in her hand. She walks up to them and hands it to them in a sign of peace. Even though she was a little scared by these new creatures and where they came from, she saw the spark of intelligence. One man took it, and the Enderman teleports away. As the army continues to explore the end, the Enderman, whose name translates to bright because I'm very uncreative with names, watches them from a distance, curious on what they are. The army knew this, but decided to leave her be and continue looking around. Eventually, night had come, and it was time to go back to Earth. And this time, Bright had went back to her home. She told her fellow Endermen about what she had seen. Weird creatures with black armor, the netherite we got after access to the nether, and a weird cyclopsian eye, the glass protecting their faces. But most did not believe her, but a handful of Endermen did, including her friends. Late at night, while everyone was asleep, they went to the portal where these creatures were seen coming from and went inside. There, they discovered a land beyond their wildest dreams. It was clear they were in some sort of house due to the existence of a roof. This roof was different, though. It was completely smooth, with random mysterious circles emanating light. The only thing they recognized was a door leading to a hallway, and and even then, it looked different from what they were used to. Two guards that were making sure nothing dangerous made it to Earth had spotted them, but did not attack. The Endermen were scared and went into an attacking position, but Bright stopped them as she knew these were the weird creatures she saw and meant them no harm. One of the two pit guards, a piglin, also recognized Bright from the journey. Just then, a small ender dragon entered through the portal and started attacking them. When I say small, I mean compared to what we see in the game. This one could barely squeeze through the portal. The Ender Dragon species, this Ender Dragon species also had armor, making the guns the soldiers had less effective. Luckily, the Endermen had brought spears and knew the weak spots of the Ender Dragon. And they, along with the help of the guards, kill the Ender Dragon. The guards gestured the Endermen to go home, and they do so. One Enderman gathered a handful of bullet shells to show the other Endermen as proof of this new world. Once they showed up with these weird items, more and more Endermen started believing them. This news spread like fire across the Enderman tribes, and multiple groups of Endermen had been sent to look around for these new arrivals. The army eventually re-enters the end, and luckily, neither group meant any harm, and from there, the two societies became one. It was kind of similar to what happened to Earth and the Nether after the war. It took longer for the Endermen to get used to some technologies, though, as they were way less technologically advanced than even the piglins. At first, Endermen were not equal to humans and piglins because some people are douchebags, but a new era has started. Though some groups of Endermen stay loyal to their tribal ways, others embrace this change. Endermen went into the study of why the End has different physics than Earth and the Nether. Some have helped create permanent moon bases and are even now working on Mars bases because so much time had passed in the last episode that we're probably not in 2023 anymore. Just saying. Also, all Deep Slate has been confiscated by governments worldwide to not risk the possibility of someone opening a portal to the deep dark somehow. Endermen have become a part of the Earth and Nether governments, and humans and piglins have become a part of End governments. Truly, by going to more and more dimensions, we become more and more connected. Perhaps if this series continues, said connection shall continue as well.